Let's now have a look at the variable functions. On php.net, let's simply type functions into the search, hit enter, and on the table of contents, let's click on the variable functions. PHP supports the concept of variable functions. This means that if a variable name has parentheses appended to it, PHP will look for a function with the same name as whatever the variable evaluates to, and will attempt to execute it. Among other things, this can be used to implement callbacks, function tables, and so forth. And then we have information about variable functions won't work with language constructs such as echo, print, unset, isset, and so on. Utilize wrapper functions to make use of any of these constructs as variable functions, and we will try and do one of these as well. Okay, let's go back to the editor. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a function called getName. And we are not going to pass any arguments to this one and simply return the string with our name. So Sebastian Solinski in my case. And then we are going to create a variable name, associate the name of the function as string. So get name. And what I'm going to do now is my name variable and call name variable with parentheses, which will basically trigger the variable name, basically whatever is associated with it, a string plus parentheses, which will produce, which will basically execute this getName function. So now if I echo my name, or better yet, what I can do is basically echo it on the same line actually when I'm actually associating the result of this getName function here to make it look a little bit cleaner. Okay, now if we go in, if we go back to the browser, refresh the page, and there we go, Sebastian Solinski. So as you can see, I've created a variable, the string, representing the name of the function. And then I simply call this variable with a parenthesis, indicating that it is, in fact, a function called to the function. And then obviously whatever's been returned from this function has been associated with this variable, my name, and also echoed to the browser. So that's one of the examples of the variable function. Let's try another one. This time we are going to create function multiply by 10 return callback. Pretty long name, but hey. Then we have number as first argument. Then we're going to have callable argument called callback. So basically whatever the second argument is going to be needs to be callable, in other words, so that we can call it as a function or as method of the class as well. But again, classes, don't worry about this for now. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is multiply the number by 10, as the name of the function suggests. So we're going to go for the number, multiply symbol, equal, and 10. Obviously, you remember this from the previous chapters, what this means. It basically takes the number, the variable, the same name that we are assigning to, and multiplies it by whatever is on the right-hand side of this operator here. And now what we're going to do is return, and we're going to take the name of this variable again, callback, and two parentheses, plus this time we are going to pass the argument which we just multiplied. So this specific callback function, whichever is going to be that we're going to pass to this function as a second argument, must have a requirement for the argument. Well, must. We can pass it. If it doesn't have, obviously it's not going to process it. But hey, let's give it a try. So let's now create the new function called callable function. Probably not the best name, but let's stick to it for now. Number is an argument, and then set of curly brackets. And what this one is going to be doing basically, let's simply return string saying the number value is, and then in between a curly brackets, because we are inside of the double quotes, we can obviously put the variable directly into the string, and I'm again wrapping this with the curly brackets just so it's easier to identify. If it was a single quotes that you would be using, then you would have to use the concatenation outside of the string using full stop. So that's basically all this function is going to do. Let's now trigger the multiply by 10. Let's just call it. So echo multiply by 10 return callback. The number I want to multiply by 10 is 7, and then for the callback, what I want to do is just call this callable function. So as a string, I'm going to pass the name to this callable function. So I'm just going to quickly copy it rather than type it again. And if we put the semicolon at the end of the statement, save everything, preview it in a browser, refresh the page, and there we go. The number value is 70. The number value probably sentence isn't right either, but hey, let's keep it like this for now. Okay, so as you can see what we've done here, we called the multiply by 10 return callback. Number which we've passed through as a first argument has been multiplied by 10, giving us 70, so now this number equals 70, and then a second argument being callable, we could just execute with the parentheses passing this argument through as well, and simply return what this function returns. Now callable, because this function, if we put, let's say, functions, and PHP now is checking, because it's a callable, whatever string we pass through needs to match the function definition which is available within the file, or basically PHP stack. But if we go back now, obviously we get catchable fatal error argument 2 passed to multiply by 10 return callback must be callable, string given, and it's telling us the string given because obviously it cannot find a function because it's string anyway. Even if we pass the correct name, it's just a string. But because it can be called, and it can be called because the function definition is actually present, that's why it basically evaluates this second argument as callable and allows us to call it later on. That's the only reason why, basically. Okay, so that's how we obviously can work with the variable functions, in a sense that obviously this time a variable is represented by this argument here, and we're obviously calling this using the parentheses, and in this specific example we are passing the number as an argument as well. Let's now have a look at another example. I'm going to remove everything that we have currently in this file, and what I'm going to do is create a variable, say echo variable, and I'm just going to associate echo with it, the string echo, which will represent one of the language constructs. As you may remember, we're using echo all the time. But with variable functions, we cannot use it directly. So what I'm going to do is associate the name of the basic name of the language construct that I want to use with the variable. And what I'm going to do is echo variable, and I'll try and call it something to echo. Usually that would work just fine with anything else, but because it's a language construct, just to prove it, if we refresh the page, we have fatal error, call to undefined function echo. Because it's not a function really, it's a language construct. So what I'm going to do is create the wrapper so that we can actually use some function that does what we want the echo statement to do. So function name will be my echo, for instance, and I'm going to pass the message as an argument. Inside of this function, all I have to do is basically echo and then the message. So that's all I need to do. And now what I'm going to do is use again echo variable, to which I'm going to assign the name of the function. So my echo. We're not assigning echo, which would basically represent the language construct. We are assigning the name of our new function, which will do precisely what echo language construct does anyway. So echo, and now echo variable, and we're gonna go for something to echo. But now, do we really need this echo statement here? Well, we don't, because we are actually echoing from within the my echo function, so we can ignore this echo. Again, it's probably not the best example, but we could return the value and then echo it, but then the whole obviously idea of having a function that echoes wouldn't make any sense. So let's try it this way, preview it in a browser, refresh the page, and there we go. Something to echo works pretty well this time. So if you have any need for any of the language constructs that obviously cannot be used with function variables, and if you have to use variable functions, then obviously the best thing to do is to write the wrapper, which will do exactly what you want. It's just give it some name, obviously, that you can easily identify it by, and do it this way.